Hey, Mike with No Problems Gaming here, and today's video will be covering another new Nintendo Switch eShop sale and 10 more great games worth buying, so let's get into it. The first game on today's list is Elderand. Now, Elderand is a challenging, retro-inspired Metroidvania, and you play as a mercenary trying to rid the land of evil demons that have taken over. Now, the game doesn't have an extensive storyline, it's pretty limited, and you'll uncover bits and pieces through different notes that you find throughout the game. Now, this is a challenging action platformer, and you can also equip a bunch of different weapon types which give you a slightly different play style. On top of that, you can alter your character's stats in any way you choose. So you'll be able to allocate stats as you level up between your health, your strength, your dexterity, and your magic ability. So depending on what items and equipment you want to use for your character, it can influence how you build your character out. But a neat feature is that later on in the game, you can reallocate your stats completely. And so this allows you to try out different weapon types, different combinations, and different play styles for your character. Now, as I mentioned, it combines RPG level up mechanics with Metroidvania style exploration. I'll say at some points, even with a map, it can be a little bit unclear as to what specific direction you want to go. But in typical Metroidvania fashion, you'll find new abilities and power-ups as you progress, allowing you to access different areas throughout the game. I did feel the game was quite challenging and almost had a Dark Souls feel to it, where you'll likely need to memorize different patterns of enemies and fully utilize your blocking capabilities and sliding dashes to get out of the way of attacks. You do have some healing items throughout the game as well, in the forms of potions that you can find, but they don't refill at save points like in a game like Dark Souls or Elden Ring, so healing is quite limited, and you'll often find yourself dying as you explore, potentially stumbling into areas that are a little bit too difficult for the time you're there. But overall, if you're looking for a new challenging Metroidvania, this one would definitely be worth checking out. The next game on today's list is Brigandine, The Legend of Runerzia. I'm not gonna lie, probably butchered that title, but the game itself is a pretty in-depth tactical RPG. And so the game is set in a war-torn fantasy world, and you'll control one of many different factions as you try and unify all of the nations under one rule. So this definitely leads to a lot of warfare and combat, and each character and nation that you choose has its own in-depth backstory and different motivations for trying to unify the nations. The game is really focused around political intrigue and really the inner political workings of the kingdoms. And so if you like that type of storyline, this game is very heavy in that. And likely you'll want to play the game multiple times to experience every branch of the story throughout each kingdom. Now the game itself is really broken down into two distinct phases. So there's more of a strategic planning phase where you'll be positioning your troops along the map, setting up different units, upgrading your troops, equipping different weapons, and more. And then after that phase, there's going to be an in-depth tactical combat phase, similar to your standard tactical RPGs. Now on top of that, the tactical combat can get pretty in-depth as well. So there's various battle terrains that you'll encounter, which give you different bonuses and augment your abilities depending on where you're at on the map. And so it's probably not a great fit for new players to a turn-based tactical RPG, as you'll really need to plan out your strategy in both phases of the game and account for a lot of different factors if you hope to succeed in battle. But I do think if you're a fan of tactical RPGs and you want to play one that's very strategic, has a lot of depth to it, and includes an intriguing political story as the backdrop, I think you'll enjoy this game. The next game on today's list is Wavetale. And so Wavetale is a really cool 3D action platformer that really reminds me of classic action platformers and adventure games from the GameCube and games like Wind Waker, with its overall aesthetic and look. And so again, this game is an action platformer, and you play as Sigrid, a young girl whose world is almost entirely covered by water. And recently, an evil gloom has been overshadowing her village and destroying everything in its path. And so you go on a quest to stop the gloom, save your village, and travel around the world, restoring the light and fighting off the gloom. And so quickly in the game, you'll meet a shadow character that gives you the ability to walk on water, and this is really the core essence of the game, and definitely one of the coolest parts as well. You'll be able to surf around on top of the water, jumping through the air, completing challenges, and exploring the world in this lighthearted adventure game. That's definitely where the game stands out, is this cool wave riding mechanic. And the game isn't too incredibly challenging, it's not super long as well. But I think if you want just a fun adventure game that takes a unique spin on 3D action platforming where you can ride the waves, I think you'll really enjoy this game. The next game on today's list is Railbound. And so Railbound is a lighthearted train-based puzzle game. So basically how it works is you'll have a bunch of different train cars in number order, and you need to arrange them and have them link up in order onto the train car to pass each level. And so it can start off pretty simple, but eventually it gets really complex where you'll need to maneuver the tracks around, making sure that the trains end up in order. You'll have tunnels, switch gates, and much more. And so it's a pretty casual game, but it has a unique spin for a puzzle game. And I think if you enjoy puzzle games, this game has a cool art style and a fun concept, and I think you'll really like it. The next game on today's list is Rogue Legacy 2. And so Rogue Legacy 2 is a roguelike action platformer, and you play as a hero that continually gets reincarnated into different knights with various classes and unique stats and different abilities as you take on enemies throughout the kingdom. And so the story itself is pretty cryptic as you go along, but eventually you'll be able to uncover more as you explore the world. But I think where this game really shines is its gameplay and addictive qualities. And so you start with some different basic classes like knights and archers, and eventually you can progress to even more advanced classes with various unique abilities that makes each run a little bit different and exciting to explore again. Now throughout the action platforming, you have different abilities you'll be able to utilize. So you basically have 3 attack slots. Typically one will be your standard attack, you'll have another one that's magic based, and another one that's usually focused around an ability that has a cooldown time period. There's also different challenges that you'll find throughout the runs, and if you complete these, they can unlock additional abilities for your characters, which can help you explore throughout the game further. On top of that, you'll earn gold throughout each run that you can use to permanently upgrade your castle, which gives your characters bonus abilities and increased stats, which can allow you to progress further throughout the game. So I think if you're looking for an addicting roguelike action platformer to check out and haven't yet played Rogue Legacy 2, I definitely recommend it. The next game on today's list is Hunter X. And so Hunter X, you play as a young girl who's a demon hunter as she goes on a quest to hunt the ultimate demon. And so again, the story is a little bit light in this game, but I think it sets up a good backdrop for a fun adventure. And it is more of an action platforming Metroidvania style game. And so similar to other games in this genre, you'll have a standard attack, a stamina bar that will allow you to dash, that you'll have to manage if you hope to survive. You'll have magic attacks, as well as blocking and parrying, which keeps the combat pretty intense. A nice thing about this game is it comes with a very detailed map as you're exploring, which can help you find treasures throughout the game. There's fast travel and other different quality of life elements as well. It does have challenging boss fights, and the game overall is pretty difficult. On top of that, you have an expansive skill tree for your character, so you can build out different abilities as you choose throughout the game, customizing your character to fit your unique playstyle. The game itself gave me more of a Castlevania mixed with anime feel, and I really liked it. And so if you're looking for another action platforming Metroidvania game that plays a lot like games in the Castlevania series, I think you'll enjoy this game as well. The next game on today's list is Final Vendetta. And so Final Vendetta is a retro-inspired beat-em-up. It's very similar to games like Final Fight and Streets of Rage. It is a little bit more retro-focused though, so it's not going to have in-depth level-up mechanics or RPG elements like some modern beat-em-up games, but it does have some really great detailed pixel artwork. Now the general story of the game is that one of your main characters, Claire, has her sister kidnapped by an evil crime organization, the Syndicate. And so you go on a mission with 2 of your buddies to free your sister and stop the evil Syndicate. And so it's pretty standard for these type of beat 'em up games, and you'll go after wave of enemies, fighting off the Syndicate, trying to save your sister. And so throughout the game, you have 3 different playable characters you can choose from. Each one does have a slightly unique play style, where some of them are a little bit faster, one's more of an all-around character, and one is a little bit stronger, but then slower at the same time. It's maybe not as pronounced as some games in this genre, but there are little differences that you'll probably notice as you play with each character. One big thing with this game though is it's incredibly difficult. They have added some more accessibility options and easier modes you can play in the game to make it more accessible, but the base difficulty of the game is incredibly hard. And so the game itself isn't very long, but with that high level of difficulty, you really need to get good at the game if you hope to progress. And so I think that definitely pads out the playtime a bit, as you'll need to develop your skills if you hope to beat this game. Standard to most beat 'em up games, you'll find items that you can use to heal your characters, different weapons you can equip, but you also have your standard attacks, your jump kick, a dash attack, blocking abilities, and even a special attack that you can unleash over time. Overall, if you like classic beat 'em up games, I think you'll enjoy this title as well. The next game on today's list is Square Keeper. And so Square Keeper is another puzzle-based game. This time it's a puzzle-based dungeon crawler. And so the gameplay overall is pretty simple, but you'll be exploring different dungeons and you'll need to clear out all the enemies on each floor and then make it to the exit room to clear each dungeon level. And so it starts off pretty simple, but you have different cards that you can use which will utilize your character's ability. So it might be moving, it might be attacking with a sword or a spear, and a lot of different other options. And some of these weapons will just simply attack monsters in specific square grids, while others will move your character in addition to that. So it can start off pretty simple, but over time, things can get quite complex, where you'll need to clear out all of the monsters and strategically position your character if you hope to clear the dungeon. There's not a whole lot more to this game, but I think if you like dungeon crawlers and are looking for a puzzle-based game inspired by those, you'll enjoy this game as well. The next game on today's list is Source of Madness. Now, Source of Madness is a roguelike action platformer. Now, one thing that definitely makes this game stand out is that the enemies are AI generated and are supposed to have machine learning embedded with their attack patterns throughout the game. And so this makes it quite challenging in the sense that enemies don't have standard attack patterns and will act very different every time you experience the game. But each run in the game, you'll start with a slightly different character that has its own unique stats and abilities, and over time you can unlock more characters as you play through as well. On top of that, there's ongoing skill trees that you can unlock that will progress your character's ability, allowing you to progress further throughout each run. You also have different items and armor and weapons that you'll find throughout each run, and it features an inventory system that's similar to classic Diablo games or the recent Resident Evil series, where items will take up so much space and you need to specifically arrange them in your inventory to make them fit. But the good news is that there's different stores and merchants throughout the game that you can sell your unused items to gain gold, which can help you again acquire better items and power up your character further. I think the big selling point again with this game is its AI generated enemies and dark gothic feel. And so if that sounds cool to you, I think you'll enjoy this roguelike action platformer as well. The final game on today's list is Fuga, Melodies of Steel. And so this is a strategy-based RPG where you play as a band of children that's thrown into a war-torn world. And it's very similar to elements that happen in World War II, and it kind of has that feel, but if it was the dog version of World War II. And so you play as a bunch of dog-like human creatures that are children that get thrown into this war after their village is destroyed. And after this happens, they find a massive tank that they're able to use to fight back against the enemy army. And so it's a very interesting turn-based RPG that also features relationship building, sort of similar to the Fire Emblem series. And so over time, you'll be able to increase bonds between different characters, and when you use them throughout battle, you can unlock unique linked abilities that you'll be able to use throughout combat. The game itself has more of a linear feel, but it also gives you some choose-your-own-adventure elements as well. Almost like a Slay the Spire type feel. And so you'll be going through and progress through different battles, but occasionally you'll be faced with branching paths, and then you'll get the choice whether you want to take the easier path or the harder path. And so again, the harder path will be more challenging for sure. You'll face off against tougher enemies, but if you succeed, you'll get better rewards at the same time. So it's kind of almost a press your luck mechanic, depending on the status of your characters. And so you'll constantly need to weigh whether you want to go the easier path or the harder path throughout the game. Another interesting mechanic that the game has is a special cannon attack that will defeat any enemy you're facing off against, but at the cost of sacrificing one of your characters permanently from the game. And so it's a unique twist on the genre that incorporates turn-based battles similar to games like Advanced Wars, also with a touch of choose-your-own-adventure and relationship development. And so if that unique combo sounds good to you, I think you'll enjoy this game as well. But overall, that wraps up our list of 10 more games worth buying in this latest Nintendo Switch eShop sale. And so if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button as it really helps out the channel. And if you're picking up any of these games or have played any of them as well, Let us know your thoughts on them in the comments below. And real quick, I wanted to also let you know about a huge sale going on in our Nerd Problems Gaming store. So if you like the shirts that we wear in the videos here and want to check out some of our other nerd merch like hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, and more, head on over to nerdproblemsgaming.com/store. And if you use the promo code PROBLEMS30 now through April 5th, you'll get 30% off your entire order. So if you want to pick out some great nerd merch on gaming, anime, sci-fi, and more, head on over to nerdproblemsgaming.com/store and use the promo code PROBLEMS30 to get that 30% discount. And if you like videos like this on video games, board games, and everything nerdy, check out one of our other videos here. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out, and to make sure you don't miss out on any future sale videos so you can take advantage of these great deals. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.